All right, I just want to start off by thanking Bronco Nation for the awesome showing on Saturday. That stadium was electric. It was awesome to be back in Albertson Stadium. We're very grateful for that sellout crowd, and looking forward to our next opportunity in Albertson Stadium. Like we just talked about, it's going to be bright and early on Saturday morning, which calls for our preparation to be on point throughout the course of the week. And, when you play that early on a Saturday morning, you also lose a little bit of that prep time on Saturday. So making sure that when we get to bed on Friday night, we are ready to go. And we had a good practice on Sunday yesterday. It was good to get the players back in here, obviously, to look at the game and see the areas where we can grow as we go into week number 3, and was excited about what the players brought to the table. Not only in our practice, but in our meetings, the things that we talked about and the things that we know that, we can correct to continue to grow, to have the team that we're capable of having. And I'm really excited too to, in this next week to be able to see these guys third week in a row. We've got a lot of young players playing, and the progress they made. A lot of guys played in this last game and really improved. So looking forward to making another jump this week. Going to need to, because we got another huge challenge. North Dakota's ranked number 13 in FCS, has one of the top offenses, that leads FCS in total offense and is second in scoring. So there are definitely players on this team coming in here that can play at any level and have shown to do that. The team being too that they've made the playoffs the last 3 out of 4 years. So we got a huge challenge coming in here. Saturday morning, and we're excited to be back in Albertson Stadium and have Bronco Nation out there.
The confidence level of the team right now, and we saw DJ come in, and he was literally in tears after the game, talking about just how much it meant to him and how disappointed he was at the start because of how hard guys are fighting. I mean, at 0-2, I guess. What was the mental state of the team? Right now?
Like we just said, I mean, it was awesome yesterday what the team brought in here in the team meeting room and how they came to the workout and came to the practice. I think DJ was he had told me after that he was asked a question about Marco, and he was so fired up about how Marco played in that game and how he laid it on the line and the plays Marco made, that it made him emotional up here, which goes to show you how much these guys care about each other. And an older guy teaching a younger guy, and then seeing him have the success and some of the plays Marco made the other night. When I was visiting with DJ after in the locker room, it was more about that than, obviously there was it's you lose a game on the last play. You miss blocking the field goal by about 6 inches. Like we said, you blocked the field goal. We're still the same team. We got a different record. And at the end of the day, we control what we control, and that's moving forward and continuing to grow. Again, we will have a good team. We're going to have a good season, and the team knows that. And they know, and we discussed the work yesterday about the work that we need to put in each and every day.
Mentioned their offense, their quarterback's a very accurate passer. What you see out of him.
I mean, he's diligent. He's a quarterback that, he's one of the most efficient passers, through the course of this season already. He's got some good wide receivers now too. They spread the ball around. Bo is number one, their wide receiver. He's their primary target, but they got other guys that can stretch the field as well. They got some slot wide receivers that are the movers within their offense that they get the ball to as well. But whether it's drop back pass, play actions, Tommy's done a nice job throughout the course of the past game.
What did you think of? I know you mentioned a little bit after the game, but when you go back and watch the film, what stood out to you about what Marco did, and how has he kind of earned those reps over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, there was just in the run game there towards really in the second half, he got into rhythm and he was really reacting to his keys well and made some plays in the alley, one-on-one tackles in the alley against some speed. I mean, that team that we played last week had elite speed, at the skill positions. And so it was awesome to see Marco make some plays in the open field space. As a linebacker, obviously that is a critical component, and we're going to see some of the same schemes this week so that, Marco's going to prepare this week to be able to be as productive and efficient as he was, especially in the second half last week.
sticking with Marco, just, how after the injury last year, how hungry was he just to get back? And was last year kind of a year he was expecting to take the step he's taking right now?
Yeah, I mean, he was on track to do that last year when he got banged up, and I'll be honest with you, Marco, even through the course of his rehab in the offseason, just the energy, the mentality he brings, the vibe he brings, he did such an unbelievable job, and obviously our medical team as well with his rehab and his return to play. And it's just awesome to see a guy put in so much hard work into, getting back on the field and then getting on the field and early on in the season, showing the growth. You talk about a guy that grew from week 1 to week number 2 and what he was able to do, his role increase in week number 2. And obviously as we progress through the season, we would love to see him continue to progress and grow and give him more opportunities.
Game slowed down for Ashton Jetty over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, he's shown to be extremely productive. And it's exciting to get the ball in his hands, and obviously there's other guys around him too. The offensive line continues to do a good job. The tight ends within the blocking, then obviously the wide receivers on the perimeter, but just to be able to feature him in the pass game as well. Find ways to get him more touches in the pass game. He had an explosive play for a touchdown out of the backfield, in terms of the pass game last week, which was cool to see him finish those plays, those runs.
You've obviously been here, guys like Jay Ajayi and Jeremy McNichols and Alexander Madison, and those guys get 40, touches in a game. And I think you had 29 last week, and he didn't really it didn't seem like it affected him. He still seemed pretty fresh. How much can he handle it if you get called upon?
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job this past week handling the load. And then yesterday, again, just coming back in here and, obviously when you carry the rock as much as he did on Saturday, he was naturally a little sore, but he was awesome. He's good in shape and getting his body ready to go again this week. And that's the awesome part about him. It's not just what he's doing on the field, but how he's maturing. There comes a maturity level too off the field to take care of your body so you can continue to perform like that. Make sure you square away and organize your time so that, you can continue to perform at that level. Because if we don't, obviously then you'll fall off. So it's awesome to see him take a step forward, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
He wins a little bit when he tries to do those hurdles.
When the tackler does not go low, slightly, but you know what? I mean, when you got the vertical he does, and he basically jumped over somebody standing straight up and down from full stride, it's pretty impressive. It's awesome. I mean, he's done stuff like that in practice, let alone in games. And so it's awesome to just see a guy play the game and have fun and attack. And that's where we're growing in terms of some of our younger players too, getting that feel where the game is going to start to slow down for some of the other guys, where they can play with that passion and cut it loose and be efficient with what it is that they need to get done.
2 teams, the caliber you have to start the season, man. I know the stats are what they are, but how is that as a coach, that process where you don't want to make major changes or stay with the course based on who you've played versus who you have, talent-wise coming up?
Well, I always know this. I mean, keeping perspective is always a huge part of what we do. Again, if it goes different on the last play last week, we're still the same team, right? But obviously it didn't. So it's keeping perspective and really figuring out how we're going to continue to grow. We played more players last week too against it, especially on defense. We played a lot more players, across the board at all levels, which was awesome. And those guys did a good job. So now we come back in this week and we continue to get some of these guys reps. Todd Benefield plays safety as a true freshman, did a good job. Zion was able to get in there and spill tubes a little bit, did a good job. Now it's continuing to make that progress, because this is going to be a long season, 1 week at a time. And the quicker we can continue to progress and grow with those guys. And obviously there's guys in the front too that we need to keep making that progress with, because we got to have the depth. And when you come in to start to play the season with 2 opponents like that, and you're still continuing to build that dependable depth, well, you're going to give some up. What I'm really proud of is how we stepped up in the red zone last week, like we said we need to, and we played it about as best we have in a long time in the red zone and created takeaways and for the most part, held the opponent to field goals.
Along those lines, Markel saw a big jump in snaps this last week. How much do you guys need him?
Yeah, that goes right. Markel goes right along with Marco. I mean, it was awesome. I was so happy for Markel to get in there. Obviously, as we spoke about, it's the return to play isn't always the same for everybody. And for Markel, being able to see him jump in there last week and really get some quality reps and defend some deep balls and play well and do some things, and the way he practiced last week too, that was awesome. Markel was back out there, and as we continue to progress and one game at a time, and Markel, we continue, to up the pitch count and allow him to play more and more. That's going to be huge for our secondary. Obviously with JC continuing to grow, our Marion is coming on. No, he's playing two different positions for us right now in the secondary, as we continue to build the depth so that we can get more guys in there.
Maybe they did rotate more bodies. Maybe the exception was kind of on the edges. Ahmad and Dimitri, they played 95% of the snaps, if not more. What do you need to see out of the guys behind them to spell them if you need to? Right. We and that's on us too, being able to mix in. Tyler's done a good job. Jaden Burgeon has done a good job. Really, I mean, Tyler's had two of his best practice weeks coming up here. And so the ability to rotate those guys, I mean, the reality is up front, we need 8 guys that can play with no fall off. And so we're pretty confident of how those guys are growing here in the last couple of weeks. This is going to be a huge week. I mean, again, we worked yesterday on a Sunday practice. We're on the sleds, working pass rush with the front guys and the edge guys. And so we're going to start fast tomorrow morning, and we're going to make sure that, we have at least 8 and we're rotating through there, if not more. And again, that's critical. A critical part of having a successful team is being able to build that depth is early on in the season.
What does Breezy add to the running back room, especially after a game like Saturday where you had a couple guys down?
Yep. So, and it's next man up mentality, right? And it just happened to be Breezy's opportunity to jump in there and help out in the backfield. I think after he got his first play and the nerves probably settled down a little bit from him, and it was awesome to see what he's capable of doing. He had a nice few runs inside, outside on the perimeter. Again, we've got a bunch of young players that are really talented. It's just about the growth and maturity process and doing it at this level and what it looks like to prepare and get ready every week. But we can see that, against a team like we played last week, Breezy has the ability to contribute and be productive, which is very exciting.
Like the last 2 weeks, at different points, Talon and the receivers have just didn't seem to be on the same page. I don't know if you've seen it the same way, but how do you fix that going into game 3? And is that something where it's just going to take time?
Well, definitely there's and that's something we stress all the time now, is that pre-snap and winning the pre-snap, being able to communicate, and specifically there, in the middle of the game, in the middle of the second quarter, actually, there's 2 moments when I can remember they were back-to-back when we weren't on the same page. So number one, that starts with us and making sure that the communication is clear on what we are doing between the players, and then the players, obviously being able to rep those things and being on the same page. And then it comes down to the execution of doing our job, making sure that when we get the communication, we're executing what we communicated to each other. So as we continue to build the offense, and in particular the pass game, having the ability to make those adjustments in the pre-snap is going to be critical. So it's a must. It's imperative that we communicate well. We know what we're communicating, and we are able to execute those things.
How would you rate Talon's game through 2 games?
Obviously he came out the last game because we're working through some cramps and stuff like that. It was awesome by Mad Dog being ready as always to jump in there. Again, we've had some bright moments, and then we had some moments where we got to communicate. We just talked about one. We got to be better with our communication and our efficiency in terms of our execution. Take what the defense gives us. There's going to be plays when it's not there. The maturity to be able to move on, go on to the next play, and just be able to play the game in that manner, where it's one play at a time, one series at a time, and grow from quarter to quarter. And that's what we discussed coming out of the last game, and very excited about the plan collectively that we put together to be able to have him do that.
Quarterbacks we've seen in the last 2 games have been really good.
Say it again, sorry.
The quarterbacks
Yes.
we've faced have been very good. Schuster looks like he's got really good numbers for them. So what does he bring to the table? And, what are your thoughts and what are your thoughts on facing him?
Yeah, I mean, we're three games. The first 3 games we're playing pretty explosive offenses. North Dakota has a fair amount of offense. They're going to have movers in the pre-snap, motions, shifts, multiple formations and sets. They do a good job of personnelling where certain guys are and being able to get those guys the ball. I mean, they run the ball for over 200 yards a game. Their line is big and physical. And so then you put a quarterback in there who, when you look at his efficiency in the passing game, is as high as some of the guys that we have played in the first couple games. He's got wide receivers that can run. He's got wide receivers that can run as well as, some of the players that we've already seen this year. So when you put all those things together, and again, as we spoke about, whether it's the drop back pass game and the progression reads and or the play actions, he can make all those throws. He makes them on the run. He makes them from the pocket. His number will be a number in the run game. There are designed run plays for him within their offense as well.
Seeing Andy, accountability, BJ mentioned DJ crying, you're seeing in the building, and obviously it starts with you. Are you encouraged with maybe some of the accountability that comes with an 0-2 in this building?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody in here yesterday was, thrilled to be 0-2. I know we weren't. I mean, the bottom line is, though, the only thing you get to do is respond and come back, and how are you going to do that? And that's the part that we're talking about. Is we had a Sunday where there was real conversation of perspective, though, too. Real perspective of what is really, and only the cool part is that the guys in this building know and understand what are the things that we need to do to be successful as we move along 1 week at a time here. And everybody's pretty confident that we can be successful 1 week at a time, so long as we understand what the preparation process looks like, the consistency that goes into it that's going to allow us to be consistent regardless of who we're playing. Okay, we've already talked about the opponents we played in the first couple of weeks. That doesn't matter. It matters about us and how we grow to be consistent, whether it's on offense, whether it's on defense, whether it's in the special teams. We've done good things. Obviously the record in itself doesn't show, what we've been able to do in the run game. The record itself, doesn't show how, our punter is doing a really good job flipping the field and creating field position. How we played in the red zone, how we limited a team last week, to the least amount of points they've been limited to in a long time with that offense. So, the bottom line is, again, it's exciting to see what the guys did yesterday coming back here and how they've been this morning. And we're going to have the opportunity to get back on grass tomorrow and get to work.
John, a little trouble in week 1 against Washington. I know you're always going to have confidence in him, but for him to bounce back, get a high school record with a field goal. Just, what's that say about his confidence in himself? Yeah,
there's no question. I mean, even in the first week, I mean, he locked right back in and got that. I mean, that's the next play mentality. And again, to be able to, take that shot we did on the 56-yard field goal, and for him to make it through. I mean, we showed the clip in the meetings yesterday about, practice execution equals game day reality. And we showed a clip of him kicking a field goal from roughly the same spot in practice, and it's what he did in the game. When you practice a certain way, when you're intentional and your focus is the way it is throughout the course of a practice, when it comes time to make a play in a game, when your number gets called, more times than not, you're going to be ready to roll.
You make of the downfield passing attack through 2 games, and it seems like you guys are racking up a lot of yards on the screen passes and some of the shorter stuff. But in terms of actually throwing, deep down the field, how do you think that is, or should there be more? Or
I believe, like last game, there was more opportunities with that. Definitely, there could have been, and there was more opportunities with that last week. In the first game, I thought we took a fair amount of passes down the field. That's somewhere where I believe we have, the players at all positions necessary to be able to do that. And I'm excited to see how we build forward on that and build a consistency where we're efficient with those when we decide to use those plays. And again, I'm excited about the players we have that can stretch the field, and obviously the quarterback's ability to push the ball down the field.
But when you have, the running game that everyone knows you have, how much do you need to be able to connect some of those downfield passes?
Yeah, they're going to load the box, right? And that's where I did feel like there was points in the game on Saturday where that could have been an option and probably should have been an option at times for us to be able to stretch the field a little bit. When teams are going to load the box.
With the defense giving up 1,100 yards in these first two games, are you seeing anything on film that concerns you, or these things are going to be able to figure themselves out?
So, I mean, like we spoke about after the game, the first game and this past game, I mean, it's always comes down to fundamentals and techniques, and that's what it is. I mean, for us, how we're teaching it, the consistency of that, how we're executing it at practice, as we said, practice reps and execution become game day reality. So the consistency at practice and then trusting that training, when we get in the game, making sure that a lot of it comes down to communication and eye control. It's nothing overly complicated, but it's trusting the training and the preparation. And again, that comes down to us, starting with me, of how we're training the defense, how we're putting a plan together, and how we're training. There was great improvement. Like you talk about, for example, I mean, Rodney needs to continue to improve, but the way Rodney played in coverage this past week was way better than the way we played in the first week. And, we're down there on the, whatever it was, the third or fourth play of the game in the red zone, and he plays really, really good technique in a man situation and, causes a pass breakup, turns into a tip ball in the air, and Tubes catches an interception. We got to build off of that. When guys stick to their training and how their coaches are teaching them, we'll see a higher level of consistency come along with that.
Kern has obviously practiced at center previously, but to see what he's done through the first two games at center, how impressed are you with his performance? I
mean, there's another guy right there just unbelievable through. We'll get Mason back here soon, but to see Garrett transition when he did, there a few weeks into camp and take it on and own not only playing the center position and snapping, but being a leader on that line and what he has been for that room, him, Cade, Ben. I mean, to be honest with you, that mentality that they've built and the identity they've built in the O-line room, that is something that we're excited about and excited to see how that keeps going. And there's, guys in that room too that aren't playing right now, that aren't in the top five, and we've been playing six that are coming along as well. So it's been awesome to see Garrett. Really excited about not only what he's doing on the field, but how he's leading. I mean, he's a leader for this whole team, not just the offense. Garrett does a tremendous job each and every day coming here, and it's a perfect example for, all three phases of our team.
You guys have had a number of 10 a.m. games now over the years. How have you kind of fine-tuned the schedule for that and in terms of getting ready for the game? And what time do you guys meet on Saturday morning?
Bright and early, Saturday morning. 4:30, the alarms go off on Saturday morning, which, to be honest with you guys, it's probably about an hour earlier than what they normally do for the players on a Tuesday, Wednesday practice, or a morning operation. So a lot of our guys are here fairly early on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 6:15 to get something to eat, get their bodies ready to go. We're building in, again, part of that process and the preparation, being a morning operation team with the structure of how school schedules are these days. It's better for us. So fortunately enough, when we get these 10 a.m. games, it's slightly earlier than what we would normally operate on a Tuesday and Wednesday morning, which still calls for, urgency bright and early. I'm not saying it's easy, but at least we operate in the mornings throughout the course of the week.
What do you not do or can't do? Even if, say, the game was at noon or 1 o'clock, you'd have less time if you're playing at, say, 6. So what doesn't happen that would happen on a game with the late stuff?
Yeah, so there's always a morning session of, the coaches getting with the players, and it's not, intense or anything of that nature, but there's still always a morning session that we get in with the players after breakfast. I mean, it's morning start. You get up, and by 4:50, you're on the bus rolling this way. So there's not a lot of time, but besides getting in, the things that we usually do within that first 5-hour window of the game is really what it comes down to. And so, when we look at putting this schedule together, it's getting obviously the guys to bed a little bit earlier the night before, and getting them up in the morning, and the guys having an understanding when our 2 feet hit the ground on Saturday morning, it's time to roll.
Rod,
I know he's a guy who loves to watch film, and Spencer's joke that, you know, Rodney will text me at 11:30 at night, have you seen this, or what do you think of this? Like, as a guy that watches so much film and tries to anticipate things versus one that also makes sure he checks the box on his 111, like, how fine can that line be?
It can be really fun. Checking the box on the 111th is way more important, and that's our focus now. And it's not just with one player. The focus with everybody on defense is making sure we're checking our 111th before we're trying to anticipate too much and then obviously falling out of place. So that's been a huge emphasis, and not only when we're on the field, but how we watch film. How we watch film too. You know, it's a big part of winning the pre-snap, being on the same page within the shell of the defense, and then being able to execute our 111th once that ball snapped.
Proud how great it was. You know, we saw later in the game with the lights flashing and stuff. You know, for that final drive. How much do you 10 a.m. game, an FCS team? I mean, the record. I mean, how badly do you need them to still show up on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Bronco Nation is, you know, the love and the passion for our players and our team. I mean, that's what playing in Albertson Stadium, you know, that's what makes it special. That's what makes it special for our players. Obviously for the recruits to get to come to the games and experience that stuff. We've been able to recruit well the last couple of years. A lot of these guys are playing. A lot of these young players are playing for us right now early on in the season through the opponents we played. We've talked about true freshmen. We talked about red shirts that are playing. A big part of not only the game day atmosphere for the competition, the loudness, you know, for the defense being on the field. You know, it's the 12th man for us, especially when the defense is on the field and the home field advantage of the noise. And then obviously the game day environment. It's special. And the people that come here, you know, the recruits that come here talk about how special it is to go in those stadiums. These recruits get to go into a lot of different stadiums and go on trips and stuff like that. And where Bronco Nation has definitely set us apart from many.
Does the training staff, you know, dealing with cramps, do you guys have any tricks for that? I know I've heard pickle juice in the past, you know, just when a player like Talon, you know, has those, what can you guys do about that? Yeah,
I mean, there's various things you can do, but I mean, ultimately the hydration process, we got to be more efficient and proactive with that on the front side. There's plenty of hydration mixes, whether it's pickle juice or probably some things that are a little bit more efficient too, that our training staff has, that, you know, being able to get that into a player's system is critical at that point. But obviously it starts with being proactive and make sure where we are where we need to be before the game.
What was the communication with you and Taylor? I know Bush is up top. You know, how heartbroken was he that he wasn't able to go back and finish that game and try to get you guys that win?
Yeah, no question. I mean, fortunate enough, I think he was excited. Obviously, the Mad Dog stepped up. I mean, those guys were celebrating together after the last offensive drive there. Again, we got a team that cares about each other, and when something like that happens, next man up mentality, and you know, we see that on both sides of the ball, as we talked about. You know, DJ and Marco and those guys. So obviously, competitors want to be in there, and TG wanted to be in there, but he'll be ready to roll this week. We'll make sure that that's not a factor in it.
Touched on this, but maybe you could expand on it a little bit. You obviously forced UCF into 4 field goals. You know, does that give us a glimpse of maybe what this defense could do moving forward?
That's definitely a big part in playing in the red zone. We've talked about this before. The depth of the field isn't there. The width of the field is. So everything happens faster in the red zone. It requires you to communicate. There's a lot of pre-snap movers. There's motions one way and things shooting out of formation the other way. And so that was a good sign right there to see how we played with our eye control and our communication down there. Now, there were still situations where we were able to get pressure on double passes or whatever when we didn't play with good eye control. So it's still visible down there, but we were able to get pressure on, you know, a tailback getting ready to throw the ball to a wide receiver on a double pass. So those things are still visible there. It's a consistency of doing it all the time, not only there now, but also out in the open field. You know, some of those things showed up in the 2-minute drive too. And so we'll be able to continue to build as we move forward on make sure that we're executing our 111th, and we'll be much more efficient and successful when we do that.
Anything else? From you know, a fan standpoint, there might be a misconception about kind of the difference between FBS and FCS. How close are those two levels?
Well, we've seen, I mean, if you pay attention to college football, you see what's going on. You see FCS teams beat, FBS teams. It happens. It's not out of the regular. So that's why, especially a team that is ranked where they are. We saw some close games this past week. If you're paying attention to scores, we're in the non-conference part of the year, so you're seeing teams play different levels and stuff like that. At the end of the day, like, it's college football. Any team can win any day. The better prepared team has got the best shot. The team that's more consistent on game day and execute got the best shot to get it done.
Ashton Genty's third in America in scrimmage yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that something that's in play for this to keep going, you hope? I mean, obviously, when other guys come back, it might diminish, but are you expecting now Ashton Genty to have this type of year at season's end, to be up there with some of the best in the country?
Yeah, I mean, the production, we don't want the production to stop, right? So we can't wait to get some of our other guys back, into the fold. But
Again, read the notes. You'll facing a number one ranked offense for the third straight week is Spencer Danielson.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you guys taking the time. Obviously, frustrated when you're on defense with a lead with a minute and whatever left. Like, we got to find a way to win that game. And so frustrated how it ended. I know so of our players. But want to give a shout out to Bronco Nation, man. I mean, my family was there. My wife was there. I mean, that was electric. From the fans to, how our marketing team came out and just the whole atmosphere is awesome. And so it breaks my heart that we didn't find a way to win that game on the blue. We need to, and we'll be better going forward. But proud of how our guys battled throughout the game. Obviously gave up a lot of explosive plays that we got to continue to work to fix. Started with myself, making sure they're in the right spots and coach the right way. But proud of how they battled. We just got to find a way to finish that game.
Two tough defenses or two tough offenses you guys have faced, and there might be a perspective from a fan standpoint, at least, FCS team, they're not going to be as tough. How wrong are fans about that that assume that?
Very wrong. Yeah, very wrong. I mean, you look at North Dakota, first off, the number one ranked FCS offense. So that's first and foremost, over 500 yards a game. And then, I mean, you just look at what some FCS teams have done this past weekend versus FBS teams. And this isn't just now, but for a long time. And so the difference is not as big as I think sometimes people want to make it out to be. They're going to come in here ready to rock, very well coached. They're a talented group, and they've won 2 straight games. And they obviously had a great season last year, returned a lot of players. So they're going to come in loaded. Their offense is clicking on a lot of different cylinders. They're very well coached, and they got a great they have a lot of answers for whatever you present for them defensively. So they'll be ready to rock, and we're going to work our tails off to be ready for them.
How battle tested will this defense be by the time you guys?
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing. Going into the season, we had a group of guys that some of them haven't had a lot of game reps, and you're hoping throughout spring, throughout fall that you can really get them close prior to the actual game reps. But there's nothing like an actual game rep. And going through, obviously, game 1, Washington, game 2, UCF with the offense we saw, there's a lot of game reps that we've seen now. There's a lot of battle testing that we've been through. There's been a lot of failure too that we've had to learn through, grow in, and be better on the other side. We got a great group of guys that it matters to them. They care, and they're a great group to coach. We don't need to coach them every day on how to practice and the effort. We just got to fine tune some of our discipline in certain areas with our eyes, and me making sure they're in the right spot. But hats off to our guys when they battled. And like I said, however things go, man, I take full ownership because we have a great group of guys that love playing for each other and they want to be an elite defense. We know that's the standard here. So I'm excited for them to keep growing.
You had a huge spike in snaps versus CF.
Yeah.
How much do you guys need him on defense? Mentality, technique,
Oh, yeah. No, we need Markel. I mean, he's not only a leader on this defense, but he's also a really good player. And it's been cool to see him now as he continues to get himself back to where we know he can be and he knows he can be. It was awesome to see him get the reps he had in the game, and he played really well. It was exciting for me, Coach DeMauro from the staff, just to see him grow in his confidence. Obviously, 2 straight years of the knee injury, it takes a little bit, even mentally, to get yourself ready. But he's worked his absolute tail off from the training room to practice, and he played really well on Saturday. So I'm excited to see him continue to step up.
2 weeks and only 2 sacks, and none of them have come from anyone on the front.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing from the edge guys, the defensive line, and how do you get them to be playing at a spot where they're disrupting the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, starts with me. We got to find different ways to, from a pressure standpoint, via patterns, different ways to attack the quarterback from rush lanes. Obviously, last weekend, there was a huge emphasis on making sure we kept the quarterback in the pocket because of how explosive he was when he left. We did a good job of that for the majority of the game. Obviously, he got out in the 2-minute drill, which was a problem. But that was a huge focus. But it starts with me just making sure from a call standpoint, we put these guys in good spots to where we can create some one-on-ones. We can have these guys go in to put them in better spots.
Pre-snap communication,
Mm-hmm.
between the safeties. I noticed on the first play of the game too. Is that where it needs to be in your opinion so far on the season? And how can it change? How can it get better? Just pre-snap when everybody knows what they're doing.
I think it's once again, it's not just either A, one position group, or B, one player. It's just as a whole group, we just got to be disciplined or do our job every single snap. And it's not, like I said, not one position group. It's obviously, as a defensive coordinator, it starts and ends with me, from putting them in the right spots in practice, making sure it's going from the meeting room to the practice field, which then if you handle the meetings, the practice the right way, those habits will show up in the game when the bullets are flying. And so it's across all levels. Obviously, the emphasis number one for us as a defense is communication, eye control, because that is what eliminates explosive plays. We've given up explosive plays in these first 2 games because of a lack of that in certain situations. So it's just making sure from the meeting room to the practice field, from the safeties to the linebackers communicating to the D-line, across the board, it just has to be more consistent. And then once I communicate what we're supposed to do, let's make sure we all lock into our keys and where our eyes are going on certain movers. We got to hit on 2 big reverses in the game. Just a lack of eye control and leverage in those situations, which will be way better going forward.
Weigh, like, when your 2 best opponents you already played, maybe your best team you play all year. How do you weigh, like, stay the course versus whether it's you're changing how you call the game, changing personnel? How do you weigh, like, how hard is that to decide, like, okay, well, it didn't work against them, but it may work for most of the teams we play the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think, BJ, the biggest thing for us is just focused on us first and foremost, is less about either A, who we're playing, or how fast this guy is, or how talented this offense we're going against is. We focus just 100% on us. If we're not communicating, if we're not looking at the right keys, if we're not getting off blocks the right way, making tackles, it doesn't matter who we play. We can play one of the top offenses in the nation, which we've seen through weeks 1 and 2, or we can play someone who's maybe not as talented depending on the week. It still doesn't matter. You're not going to be a good defense if you can't focus on those things. So don't look at it a lot in regards to, we'll be fine just because of, the offense we've seen, because there's a lot of stuff we need to fix. And I'm excited too. This group is excited too. Once again, one of my favorite groups I've ever coached in regards to guys that are hungry, love to work, want to show up and have the right attitude every morning. It matters to them. We just, once again, as the game reps start to stack with a lot of these guys that are now playing a lot for us, now the mistakes or learning experience we've had, we got to remember those. So now when we're back on the blue, we're defending the blue against a great opponent coming in, we got to learn from the mistakes we've made in week 1 and 2, coaches included, and make sure we're better going forward.
But that final drive, place is rocking, lights are flashing,
Yeah.
and then obviously first play they get the first down right away and they're off and going. What would you see on that last drive? And was there one of the plays where one of the receivers was actually out of bounds when they had that 2nd and 15 converted? Should that have been called?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you talk about a 2-minute drive when we're up by 1 point as a defense. I mean, you take that every time. I don't care who we're playing. If you give us an opportunity with a 1-point lead to go win that game as a defense, we will take that every time, and we need to. And so not executing those moments was frustrating. Obviously, I got to put them in better spots, be ready for those situations. And I know we will be going forward. But a lot of what they did were things that we were ready for. We practiced. And so we just got to make sure we do a better job taking from the practice field to the game, and we'll go execute in those big moments. In regards to the guy being out of bounds or not, we can't ever put it in the ref's hands to even make it a question, right? There's a lot of things that we're excited to clean up, start with me, and I know our guys will be way better for it.
Kind of watching on that end, Dimitri leaves the field from a level of exhaustion standpoint, kind of reminded me of guys that leave walking off the field from Colorado State 17. Those guys played almost every snap at a pretty physical position. How much do you need from the guys behind them to maybe dispel them? What do you need to see to dispel those guys?
Yeah. And especially as we go throughout the season, I mean, our depth is going to be huge. And once again, the guys that are in backup roles doing a really good job in practice, proving themselves to show like they're ready for those moments. In that game, against an offense like that, the tough part is once they're rolling, it's going to be very hard to sub because there's no time wasted. They're moving. They very even rarely sub in and out of personnel. So those get a game like UCF's a little bit different than some teams. We will rotate more going forward. 1, to keep them fresh. 2, because the guys behind them have done a really good job and they're pushing it. So we're going to find more ways to rotate to keep our guys fresh and to keep them so we can be healthy throughout the whole season.
Rodney, I know he's a guy, like you told me in the past, that he's one of the text you at 11:30 because he's watching film.
Yeah.
In terms of like, we take it as cliche when you guys say doing their one. How fine is the line of the guy seeing something on film to anticipate something, but also check the clock?
Yeah, no doubt. For us right now, and I use this loosely, a younger defense, the number one focus for me, for our group, is do your job. Do your job. Because everyone in that seat, this place matters to them. There's no one here that's like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and just do something different because I think I should. No, that's not happening. But we have to have the discipline to do my job no matter what. Yes, there's film study to know what's coming. Hey, I know in this formation, here's the mover. This is where my eyes are going to be coming to. There's a couple different things I'm going to get. But the biggest point of emphasis for us as a defense is no matter what it is, you get a call, you see a formation, you communicate, you lock in your keys, and you do your job. And then you're obviously counting on the guy next to you to make sure he's doing his. And that's our biggest focus across all levels. Safeties, corners, linebackers, D-line, edge guys, that's our biggest focus. Because we got a great group to coach. We got a great group of guys that are going to continue to get better. We got better from week 1 to week 2. We got to take another big jump from week 2 to week 3. And a huge focal point is do your job. What's the call? What's the situation? And what's your technique? Do that to the fullest you can. That's what we need from you. Not to overthink, well, I saw this on film, so I was thinking I could jump. No. Do your job. Do your job. Because that's how we can protect each other, and that's how you're an elite defense.
The past 2 weeks, it seems like the opposing offensive coordinator has tried to target Nohe quite a lot. And you mentioned he's playing 2 positions, or Andy did.
Mhm.
He's been nickel and corner. I guess, can you explain the reason why? Like, why not just have a backup nickel instead of having him try and do 2 positions?
Yeah, Noe. I mean, first and foremost, Noe is a very savvy football player. We rarely do put people in too many multiple spots. Obviously, with some of the different packages we get in, we'll put them in different spots. There's a lot of same as. What I mean by that is, although you're in a different position or a different alignment, it's the same as technique as you would if you were playing corner, or same as you would be playing here. And Noe's done a good job, and he has to play all over the field. Obviously, there's some things that we're excited for him to grow in. And And like I said, I wouldn't say just that Noe is being attacked. I think just in general, we're being attacked to see how we handle certain shot formations, see how we handle certain coverage adjustments, because we put that on film. And that's when you play good offenses, they are going to look back and see what has hurt you. And if you have not fixed it and you do not have an answer, it's coming again. So less than maybe them attacking one of our players, it's just they're going to come back to find out to see, did we get this fixed or not? No different than the things UCF hit us on. I promise you, you guys can probably see it here in a couple days on Saturday. Like, it's coming back. And that's why we have to be very proactive as a staff to make sure we are fixing the things that have hit us. And so we're proactive, once again, like we tell the players to learn from the mistakes and grow forward. We have to as coaches too, in regards to, hey, let's make sure we're clean on these fits moving forward.
A game like Saturday for Marco, what does that do for his growth?
It's awesome. No, I'm very, very proud of Marco, man. And you just seen, I mean, first game starting, and he's been here for a couple years, but with his ACL last year, he's never played a football game on the blue, and having it be his first game starting, and he went out there and played really well, was very productive. There's a lot of different stuff thrown at him. He handled it well. Not perfect. There's still some things I'm excited for Marco to grow in. But I was very proud of him after the game, how he handled it, how he played, and he led out there in the field as well.
Touchdown saving interceptions. How encouraging was it to see Alex and Jalen come up big in the red zone?
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge part for us in the game. I mean, we did not play well in the open field. We gave up explosive plays, be it reverses, not fitting a run correctly, leverage on the perimeter. But we played really good red zone defense, which really kept us in the fight. And it's a huge emphasis of who we are in defense, 3 or nothing. So when you go down there, especially either the first drive or later when we get those 2 interceptions, it was a huge part in the game. And it was a big focal point from us. Week prior, Washington was in the red zone 5 times, had 5 touchdowns. And now fast forward, did a much better job a week later. So that's a huge emphasis for us, is just how are we growing week 1 to week 2 and not focused on things we can't control. Who's coming to the stadium, who we playing, where are we traveling, who's hurt, who's not, who do we got, and we're going to focus on doing our job every snap. Do it for the brotherhood. Do it because you love each other, and we'll keep growing forward. But I was excited to see, obviously, there were huge plays in the game, but us stepping up and how we play red zone defense was awesome.
Is there any part that's hard to evaluate a red zone defense? I mean, those 2 interceptions, those were 2 very catchable balls. The second one, the guy bobbled it.
No questions. Yeah.
I mean, if those go for touchdowns, maybe it's a different story.
It's a whole different game.
Is it hard to evaluate a red zone defense when it seemed like UCF almost beat themselves more in the red zone?
Yeah, I think just for us, the end outcomes, everything you look at in regards to success, but those plays, there was a guy wide open on one of them, and he should have walked into the end zone. So we're not coming up in here and be like, interception, great job, guys, then we're leaving. Like, that was a mistake on our part. Thank the Lord it got tipped and JC caught it. And trust me, I was not unhappy after that play when he picked it off, right? But there's still a lot of things to clean up. That's defense too. Just because on one play it's a TFL doesn't mean that we come up here and give each other slow claps, right? There's probably somebody else on the field that maybe played with bad eyes or didn't fit leverage. Weeks 1 and 2, it has just been shown at a higher level because of the talent we're playing, right? Someone's wrong, it gets exploited quickly. And so as tough as it is going through it, we are taking steps to continue to grow it, and we're going to be better for it in the long run.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Last 35 points in 2 games. Where do you see the offense needing to make the most improvement here moving forward?
Yeah, I think just overall consistency. I think certainly we're moving the football well. Got to create more explosive plays in the pass game, which we think will lead to more points.
I know the sample size is small, but when you only get 12 Saturdays, 2 games is about 17% of your season. Taylor's 1 of 10 on passes, over 20 yards, and 4 of 20, or 6 of 24 over 10 yards. What is the expectation when you're throwing the ball out to in terms of efficiency level, and how much more efficient do you need to be?
Yeah, certainly. I think it starts, with just giving guys a chance, right? Because you look at those downfield throws. Again, we always say this: if we'll just give guys a chance, they're either making the play or they're getting off the ground and getting a chance for pass interference situations. So, we got to do a better job as a whole at that position, schematically, making sure we're giving them opportunities down the field to go make plays.
On a number of plays over the last 2 weeks, Taylor and the receivers during the routes just don't seem to be on the same page. What have you seen from that, and how do you correct that?
Yeah, I think it comes with reps. I don't know if I know it happened 2 times in that last game. One was, a press bail situation, which certainly can cause some confusion. The second one was a cover 0 check where a signal adjustment miscue happened. So, again, I don't want to overreact. I don't necessarily feel over the last 2 games that there's been a ton of miscommunication there. In the first one, I think they were on the same page. We gotta throw and catch and make some plays, and we just got to make sure we're on the same page.
How slow is the game for Ashton? I know you weren't really here last year, but you felt like a true freshman at times. Ability to make that miss to see that the game is slowing down quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a guy who I think, you get guys that come in as freshmen and it takes time for them to adjust to the game. And then you get certain amount of guys that are just naturals at it. And I think that's what you're seeing. I mean, I want to say we targeted him 30 times in that game. What he was able to do in the pass game, what he was able to do in the rush game is just, he's a very well-balanced player. I mean, I think he catches it extremely well. And at times with him out of the backfield, it's like playing with an extra guy.
Taylor's passing yards, about half of them actually pick up after the catch. I mean, how have he been able to exceed your expectations in those regards? I mean, it's a pretty staggering number. He's 2 in the country in receiving yards after catching running back.
Yeah. Again, I think we look at that all the time. So much of yardage, if you will, is quarterbacks being accurate, getting them the ball and letting guys make people miss. And so we all know what Ashton is. He's an extremely talented player. His maturity is through the roof, the way he's been working, and we're pleased with where he's at.
In terms of Taylor and the run-pass combination that you guys have been playing with since you got here, have you found the right balance yet?
Not sure yet. I think, as a play caller, I mean, there's certainly a lot that's on your mind. You go into a game and you're feeling, okay, how's their quarterback playing? How's our quarterback playing? And so, look, I think it's something we've talked about, the consistency, his decision-making. We got to take the next step there. And I think, year one, maybe for him, people getting a feel for what he does well. The reality situation, week 1 and week 2, there's good players that he's going up against, talented guys, NFL players on both of those rosters. And so when you get in those situations, the runs and they know what to take away. So everything comes down now to what you guys have been used to for so long, and that's decision-making and accuracy. And that's the part of his game, which we're going to take the next step with. And we just got to continue to improve.
Accuracy, and it goes back to last year. It's not, it couldn't be what you want. What's going on there? What do you see there in terms of the accuracy?
Yeah, I think so much of it, is just starts with the decision making, right? With anything, when you feel extremely confident where you want to go with the ball. I think a lot of times too, making sure, from a footwork standpoint, we always talk about be proud of what that back copy looks like, if you will, of the film. Because when he's got his feet set, when he's confident, trust and protection, again, we think mechanically he can make all the throws. But that's the development of any quarterback. It really is, and you guys know that, and he'll continue to improve.
In terms of Taylor and just trying to keep him healthy, keep him, keep the cramps away. Andy mentioned maybe making sure he's hydrated. How much more of a focus does that become now that he has had that issue in the last game?
progress to being a big time college athlete, the importance of their bodies throughout the week. I think sometimes we've all been there where it's like, okay, Friday, we're going to start to get ready, but it's really got to be a week long preparation to put their bodies in a position to go and be elite every week. And so certainly it's something we've monitored. Our dietitian, our nutrition staff has done a tremendous job, but just another thing we got to be on top of.
Obvious answer, but when you have the running game you have, and the other teams know you have the running game you have, how much do you need the downfield passing attack to get going so teams just don't start stacking the box?
Yeah, I think it's critical, and I don't even know if it's just the downfield passing attack, but we got to stay balanced, and I think that's a big thing, is finding what those throws are, what those things Talen's comfortable with, creating separation, all those things, because we obviously have to be balanced, to be where we want to be.
Some possibilities downfield, and you could have done a little better job that last game, going downfield. Was that stuff with Talen, or is that play calling, or in terms of not maybe attacking downfield more?
Yeah, a little bit of both. You guys know what it is. It's so much, again, going back to the play calling thing. There's a feel element to it, and again, you're getting a feel of what that picture looks like. Are we outrunning guys downfield? What's the situation in the game? How's their offense playing? And obviously, you always want to be explosive and you want to take those chances. You look back at week 1 and we took a chance on the 10-yard line, at Washington, and almost ended up taking a safety there, right? So it's just that balance of getting a good feel, getting a good rhythm, playing complementary football, and taking the shots at the right time.
Obviously comes in there, and you guys have talked about how poised he is, but when you see him, truck a linebacker on a 4th and 2, and then, stay composed in the pocket and hit step, what did you think of his play and then his composure on that last drive?
Yeah, it didn't surprise me one bit. I mean, I think if we go back to his spring game that you guys were here, I think there was maybe one incompletion by that kid in that game. And so he's a gamer, he's a natural. But again, you got to tip your hat to him, right? You go 2.5 hours, 3 hours of not playing, and boom, Talen's cramping up. He's in the game, and I start him off with 2 throws, and he's prepared, and so that's everything he's all about, man. Obviously, again, I've got a lot of experience being the 2 and know what that's like, right? So, but just from his preparation during the week, that's just a guy that prepares like he's the starter. He's probably in the quarterback room right now going through, being ready if his number's called again. And that's a testament to him and his process.
2 throws, and I think they just punted real quick after he came in. Did you even have time to change what you were calling? Or if you were to go back again, would you say, hey, I'm going to give him a couple screen passes or some runs to get him confident?
Yeah, no, I think you go through the process, you think about it. I think it was a 2nd and 10 was his first rep, so naturally your thought process is, hey, we got to get half back. And that's the call we made, which he did a good job on that completion. The 3rd and 5 call was a call we really liked, and the ball got batted down, but we thought was open as well. And so, again, certainly it's a different style when he's playing than when Talen's playing, but I think, both of them can be equally productive.
You said use it, don't abuse it in terms of Talen's running ability. I saw one design play last game. You guys picked up the first. It looked good. Is Talen upset that he's not running enough? Are you upset that you're not running him enough? I mean, he has this valuable, beautiful tool.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I think so much of it is this, right? Like, again, you watch these defensive ends, okay, in 2 games. I think the traits or the DNA of Washington in every game they play, those guys are super wide, and that's what they do. UCF, not so much. And they came to our place, and those defensive ends were extremely wide. And on every run play, they're just basically running to spy him and make sure that they keep him inside. So, again, I think it's, just to be as honest with you as possible. Like, we call 12 to 15 plays in that game where he's got the decision to make based off of what those ends are doing. And honestly, about 12 of those plays, the read took him to hand the ball off. And so, the other teams got good coaches too, and they understand, right? You notice the 1 or 2 times he does pull it when the end squeezes and he extends plays 15, 18-yard gains. And so there's that give or take, right? Because once you start running inside those tackles, those are big boy runs too now, right? And you're taking hits. And I think the one run you saw there was a quarterback counter where he got 3-4 yards and took that hit. And so again, everything is that balance. By no means are we going in these games and going, we're not trying to run Talon, but when Ashton Genty's getting 6 yards a carry, right, on counter schemes because those ends are so upfield, that's a little bit of the give or take of, okay, if they're going to stop Talon running wide, that's what we're able to hit inside. So
2 minutes to go in the game, down 5, 26-yard line, 3rd and 10, QB2 is in. From the start to finish of that play, like what stood out to you in the execution of it?
yeah, I just think, again, I mean, it's a testament to Mad Dog. I mean, we knew we had to be aggressive. I just think the 3, we call them money situations, money downs, 3rd and 4th downs on that final drive. He was 3 for 3, and to be honest with you, as you know, like we called that 4th and 2 call. We think it was a call he liked and it wasn't there, and he kind of willed us to that 4th down conversion. Then came back on that final 3rd down in a cover 0 situation where they went all out blitz and stayed extremely composed and made that throw. So, you got to be at your best when your best is needed. And I am proud of the group and the unit for finishing that drive.
That actually, I don't know how many times someone said they run real, play this in practice together to set the starter and Max the back and Max. You guys ran that play in practice last week and it worked in practice. Like, so when you get into the situation, did you recall that? Like, let's put them in a familiar situation, or is that just what you guys had to do in that moment?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. I think certainly you want to call plays that you feel he's rep because, as you know, as a 2, you're not taking as many reps as that starter. So I think there was a lot of dialogue and a lot of, hey, you like this or you like that? You know what I mean? And I think that play in particular, he felt good about. For both those reasons, I think we had, man answers, we had pressure answers, but it was the execution of him to go out there and do it. And to be honest with you, the play Steph made on that was outstanding. I mean, you look at that back copy, the referee's trying to avoid the ball. I don't know how, how long he actually got to track it, but to make that play and then the run after the catch was an elite level play.
See out of Breezy on Saturday, and if you guys do have continued injury problems at the running back position, what's his role going to have to be?
Yeah, it's going to be an increased role. I think we talked about it again. I think naturally he probably went through the nerves of being a freshman on maybe his first carry. I think he said something to Andy, but once he gets in there, he gets settled down. I think he just reverts back to his natural talent. He's physical, he's tough, he can make plays, and so we're excited about continuing to get him going.
3 running backs down and Ashton is hurdling guys. Are you like, yeah, man, go for it? Like, use your athleticism, or are you a little nervous? Like, all right, maybe let's tone it down a bit.
Yeah, I'd say pretty nervous. I just think in general, the situations are what they are. And, but we also know that we've got to feature him and get him the ball as much as we can. And so I think it's a give or take, keep him fresh. We don't think we can keep him in that, 60 or over play count a game. And we've had those discussions this week, but we've got to make sure that, we can give him the amount of touches he needs, but also keep him fresh so he can have the success.
What's the balance or snap count you're looking for him to make sure he's available for the whole year?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in the 50 range, and that's probably about, I want to say 12 less than what he was last game, but we're going to need to lean on him for sure. And, but we can't, if you will, do too much to where he feels like it's too much.
Maybe just a quick unsung part of the game. Eric didn't have many catches last game, but what do you think of his blocking ability? I know it was on Breezy's big run. He had a nice block, and then he was on Steph's touchdown catch. He kind of came off the backside and provided him out there.
Yeah, Eric's been awesome. I'm super proud of him and just really his maturity and his growth over the course of really since I've been here. I mean, I think he's one of those guys I rely on that in-game communicates and generally has a good feel for what defenses are doing. And that is the mark of a great wide receiver, a guy that's willing to play and run plays, pass plays, do whatever it takes for the team to win. And so I'm just super proud of him. And I know his growth, we get rolling here. He's going to continue to get better and better.
He practiced previously at center, but to do so in a game is kind of a different animal. So how important has his steadiness been through the first 2 games?
It's been huge. I mean, knock on wood, there hasn't been a ton a ton of snap issues, with him at that center position. And that's not necessarily a position or a skill that just comes overnight. That's something where a lot of times we've recruited guys that haven't played the center position and try to put them in that position. And they haven't been able to do it. So you guys know Garrett. I mean, he is such a mature, hardworking, everything this program's all about. And again, it's those kind of guys that when you throw them off kilter or they're asked to do something that they haven't been doing are able to be successful because of their focus and their preparation.
Anything else?
It's Bush.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate you guys, man.